You love it how I move you. You love it how I touch you, my one. When all is said and done, you believe God is a woman, and I feel it up to midnight, a feeling that you can't find, my one. It lingers when we're done. You believe God is a woman. I don't wanna waste no time, yeah. You ain't got a one-track mind, yeah. Have it any way you like it, and I can tell that you know I know how I want you. Ain't nobody else can relate. Boy, I like that you ain't afraid. Baby, lay me down and let's pray. I'm telling you the way I like it, how I want you. And I can be all the things you told me not to be. When you try to come for me, I keep on losing. And you see the universe when I'm like already. It's all in me.
Hello and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles. Today I'm doing my June wrap-up. Obviously it was a busy month for me. In case you don't know, I graduated, got my master's degree. Do I regret it? Maybe. Oh well. Anywho, I didn't read a ton. I've been very busy. There were a lot of graduation activities, and then I took some time off from work and making videos and all of that. That was my little hiatus a little while back, and here we are. So I completed 3 books this month. This video is going to be super short, but I am still reading a few other things, and I'm going to start off with those actually. So first up, we have The Jasmine Throne. As many of you know, I've been reading this with my book club, Pages in Color, which focuses on reading diverse fantasies. This was our very first pick. We started reading it in May, and we've been reading a little bit at a time. So I made it about 2/3 of the way through. We stopped at chapter 48 for this last section, and then we're gonna read this very last chunk in July. I'm very excited. It's getting very interesting. I'm interested to see how all of these storylines are finally gonna converge and what will happen next. I believe the second book comes out in like August, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and pre-order it because I'm definitely enjoying this one. If you're unfamiliar with The Jasmine Throne, it is about a young princess who has been sent into exile by her brother, who is the emperor. So we're following her perspective as well as one of her maidservants, and there is a rebellion going on and so many interesting things. A lot of interesting characters, interesting dynamics between the characters. Highly recommend. I'm really enjoying it so far. Another book that I started this month, but I will be continuing probably for the next couple of months, is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I was granted an ARC of this. I'm really excited about that because I absolutely love the Poppy War. I am enjoying Babel, however, it is a lot of history, but I do enjoy the characters. I'm enjoying the story, and I'm interested to see how things are going to turn out because I genuinely have no idea at this point. I believe I'm about 35% into it right now, and I'm kind of just reading it slowly because it is a lot of information to take in. So I believe this book comes out in August. I don't know the exact date, but I'll put it up on the screen for you. And I think that if you are into history and you like R.F. Kuang's writing, if you've read The Poppy War, then I think you will enjoy this one too. As for books that I've actually completed this month, the first was No Exit by Taylor Adams. In this, we are following a young girl named Darby. She is racing to get home. However, she cannot beat the snowstorm that is coming, so she gets stuck at a rest stop. While she's in the parking lot trying to get cell service so that she can contact her sister, she notices that the van that is parked next to her has a child locked in the back of it. So it's going to be hours before anyone is going to be able to get to them and clear the roads. She's trying to figure out who she can trust and who has this child locked in the back of their car. So I did do a book and movie review of this. I will have that linked in the cards and in the description below. I gave the book 3.25 stars and actually enjoyed the movie much more, which is shocking because that rarely ever happens. But if it sounds interesting to you, the movie is available on Hulu. The next book that I read, I won't talk too much about because it is not published yet. However, if you know Neeks, who is a fellow booktuber, book talker, she's on Twitter. She is also an author, and she let me read her manuscript of book 1 in her series, which is called Gatekeeper. Instead of me explaining what it's about, I'm gonna try to find a TikTok where Neeks talks about it herself just because I'm not sure how much she would be comfortable with me saying, but I really, really enjoyed this book. If it were published and I was able to rate it, I would give it a 4.75 stars. That is how much I loved it. The characters and the world, it's all amazing. What I will say is that there is magic, there's generational familial connections, there's betrayal, there's drama. It's amazing. I really enjoyed it. And if you're not following me, she isn't super active on BookTube anymore, but I highly recommend that you follow her on BookTok. She's awesome, she's funny, she's smart, she's a great friend, and I'm so glad that she let me read her book. It is honestly amazing, and I cannot wait for it to actually get published. I know that the fantasy girlies are gonna love it. It's that good. And the last book that I read was Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is the book that Dash recommended to me for my 12 Recs by 12 friends. I did a video on that TBR, so I will have that linked in the card and in the description for you as well. I knew that Dash really liked this book, and I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel about it, but I loved it. I would also rate this one 4.75 stars. It was a little slow to get started, but once things got going, I was hooked. I could not wait to keep reading it, and I did a blended read, so I had the ebook and the audiobook. By the way, the ebook is available on Kindle Unlimited if you have KU, so you can download it for free. I really enjoyed it. I don't know how to explain what this book is about, so I'm going to give you a snippet of the synopsis. Alright, so the synopsis says, God will return when the earth and sky converge under the black sun. In the holy city of Tova, the winter solstice is usually a time for celebration and renewal, but this year it coincides with a solar eclipse, a rare celestial event prescribed by the sun priest as an unbalancing of the world. Meanwhile, a ship launches from a distant city bound for Tova and set to arrive on the solstice. The captain of the ship, Shiala, is a disgraced Teak whose song can calm the waters around her as easily as it can warp a man's mind. Her ship carries one passenger. Described as harmless, the passenger Serapio is a young man, blind, scarred, and cloaked in destiny. As Shiala well knows, when a man is described as harmless, he usually ends up being a villain. I kind of wish I had read the synopsis before. That's really good. Like, doesn't give away too much, but it says enough to make you intrigued. Good job, Rebecca Roanhorse. That's fantastic. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I liked Shiala as a character. I liked Serapio. There is only one character that I did not enjoy, and it's Narampa. If you read it, she's the sun priest. I don't know why, I just didn't like her. Nothing about her story was intriguing to me, really. But yeah, it's so good, and the world is so interesting, and I am starting to understand fantasy readers who say that they really like when there are gods in their fantasy series, and I think I am a fan of that as well. I am super excited to read Fevered Star, hopefully sometime soon. I didn't have a physical copy of Black Sun, but now I definitely want one of both the first and the second book. So yeah, if you haven't read this yet, highly recommend. And I also think doing a blended read for this was good too, because I got the proper pronunciations of certain things. But yeah, I'm so intrigued, and I believe this is supposed to be a trilogy, hopefully just a trilogy. And I'm really excited to see how all of this ends. I mean, the ending of the first book was really good, but I was also like, that's it? It ends there? So good thing the second book is already out so that I can just go ahead and read that soon. So those are all the books that I read in June. I did already put up my July TBR earlier this week. While I will be planning to read all the books on there, I do think that I also want to read Handbook for a Poster America by Robin Marty, I believe is the author's name. I do have a physical book. It's up there somewhere on the top shelf. As we all know, Roe v. Wade has been overturned, and it is an interesting time right now. And as a woman who has never wanted children, I definitely need to be aware of my options. I've never had an abortion, I've never been pregnant, but I do know that it is something that I absolutely do not want, and the fact that a constitutional right was taken away from us is fucking ridiculous. So I will also be linking a bunch of resources in the description below for anyone who may need them, whether now or in the future. There are networks in place to help with this situation, to get people the care that they need. This doesn't just affect women, it also affects trans and non-binary folks. And as a Black woman, knowing that the United States has such a high mortality rate when it comes to birth, that is especially high amongst Black women. So there will be a ton of links for anyone who may need them, and we'll see what happens, I suppose. Supreme Court justices have already said they're ready to take away other rights as well. And I also want to note that for any of you saying, oh, this is some Handmaid's Tale shit, no, it's not. The Handmaid's Tale is fiction, and a lot of it is based on things that have already been happening to women of color since long before Roe v. Wade existed. So please be mindful of that, because when you say that, you're only talking about the effects that this has on white women. You're completely whitewashing the fight for reproductive rights, and it's not just an issue among white women. So that's just something to keep in mind. And if you don't know what I mean by The Handmaid's Tale being reality for women of color, I will link an article in the description as well. Please educate yourself. The history of how women have been treated in this country, like, it's not a surprise, but apparently a lot of people don't know. So I will have all of those resources in the description. But otherwise, that is my wrap up for the month of June. Let me know if you've read any of these books or if they are on your TBR. Otherwise, that is all I have for you today, and I'll see you in the next video.